Is DJ Lagway the best quarterback in the SEC in 2025?
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Thursday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins with FanDuel. And Josh Pate yesterday put out his SEC quarterback power rankings in this preseason, and he only put out 10. So obviously there's players missing. We'll talk about them. But in that list, which a lot of Florida Gators fans liked the list, a lot of Florida Gators fans appreciated the list because the number one player on the list, the top quarterback in the SEC, according to Josh Pate, is DJ Lagway. And look, this is a breath of fresh air. Instead of just having Arch Manning just shoved down everybody's throat, because that's what you get, because his last name is Manning, so he's got to be the best quarterback you've ever seen, which, for those who don't know, I am a New York Giants fan, have been my entire life. I love Eli Manning. I would die for him. But having the Manning last name does not all of a sudden make you a number one overall quarterback, the top quarterback in the 2023 recruiting class. It doesn't make you any of that. And so that's my thing, is just, I think Arch is good. I just don't get why everybody's throwing him in there as, the guy, that the number one option that they have. That I just, or the number one definitive option that they have. I just don't get that part. So first off is DJ Lagway, of course. Second is Arch Manning. Third, LaNorris Sellers, which I love that one. Fourth is Garrett Nussmeier with LSU. LaNorris Sellers, of course, South Carolina. But fourth is Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. And I like it. I feel like Josh Pate here took a little bit of a step out of the public comfort zone, where I do think that a lot of people go, oh, look at what Nussmeier did last year. Look at the production he had last year. Look at this. When realistically, Garrett Nussmeier is replacing parts of a pretty damn good offensive line that Florida decimated, parts of a really good receiving room. And sure, you brought in talent, but bringing in talent doesn't automatically mean, oh, they're going to play well, right? Continuity is an important thing. We're learning that more and more in college sports, especially, I think. Teams that keep their general core together and then go add in a couple free agents are seeming to have some more success than others. And Garrett Nussmeier, a lot of the situation around him is changing. And I will say that I think this year will be a better indicator of his level of talent, just because last year, he was behind a fantastic offensive line. Florida destroyed them, and people kept talking about, oh, Florida had 7 sacks against LSU. He had only been sacked 6 times the entire year before that. I know that people point to that as just how incredible Florida's defensive line played, which they did. But for me, I'm also like, he had so much time and so much space and so much room to work with that he wasn't as challenged as he could have been. And so this year, he's going to have a little bit worse of a supporting cast. And I think that'll be a better indicator of, is he a top NFL draft pick with worse talent around him? John Mateer at Oklahoma is number 5, which surprised me a lot. I'm not the type of person that I'm like, oh, well, you're coming over from this school. It's a big change. If you're in, FBS, usually I go, yeah, there's going to be a change, of course, but I'm not going to go, oh, well, what you did there doesn't matter. I think John Mateer is pretty good on film. I just thought he should have been lower than some names. Like, I feel like next up is Austin Simmons, one-time Florida Gators commit, of course, reclassified, flipped to Ole Miss. And now is expected to be handed the keys to the offense that is Lane Kiffin's offense. But he's supposed to be handed the keys to that offense after Jackson Dart was drafted in the first round by the New York Giants. So Austin Simmons on that list as well. I at least sensed the trend. Once we got to this area, I was like, all right, I really know what he was going for here. And I respect it. I do. I think that he went about it, honestly, a smart way, which we'll talk about so much about why SEC quarterback rankings are all over the place and why I think Josh Pate did a very good job of just ranking the guys. Whether or not I agree with everything is beside the point. It's can I see the process? Can I understand the process? All right, then I get it and I respect it. So after Austin Simmons, you get Jackson Arnold, which that one I will say that one I strongly disagree with there. And that's not just because he's at Auburn. We'll talk about Jackson Arnold a little bit in the next segment. Then you've got Taylon Green at Arkansas, which I love that poll. Marcel Reed from Texas A&M, who, of course, Florida played last year. And Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt is number 10. So on this list, you've got number 1 is Florida. Florida will play against number 2, Arch Manning. Number 4, Garrett Nussmeier. Number 6, Austin Simmons. Number 9, Marcel Reed. And that's it for the SEC play. The quarterbacks not on the list, but are listed as the projected starting quarterbacks. If you want to argue about, this person is going to win that battle, don't waste your time. I don't care about it. I don't care, what you've heard or what any insider says. I'm just going by what's listed as the projected starting quarterbacks. Ty Simpson at Alabama. Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, who Florida will play. Bo Pribula at Missouri, who transferred over from Penn State this past offseason. Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. I almost said Tennessee State for some reason. But Joey Aguilar is on Florida's schedule for this year, and Florida will play him. And Joey Aguilar, of course, came over from UCLA via Appalachian State. Blake Shapen at Mississippi State, who Florida will play this year. And Zach Calzada at Kentucky, who Florida will play this year as well. And overall, look, I like the rankings. I will say there's some that like I said, I strongly disagree with. I disagree with Mateer being 5. I just think he should be a bit lower. Strongly disagree with Jackson Arnold being 7. I don't think he should be in the top 10 at all. And I understand that, toward that bottom-ish, it's probably really thin on where you can slice it and how you can decide who goes where. So I'm not going to be too harsh on anything. But if I'm building a team right now, and we're not talking about eligibility, we're just talking about who could be my quarterback. Let's say everybody gets 3 years. I'm not taking Jackson Arnold. I'm taking Taylon Green over him. I'm taking Marcel Reed over him. Hell, I'm taking Diego Pavia over him. I think Diego Pavia gives me a better chance to win. I think Jackson Arnold might have I think Jackson Arnold does have a higher ceiling than Diego Pavia. But if we're talking about who's giving me the best chance to win, I'm taking Diego Pavia. Simple as that. Hell, I'm probably taking Bo Pribula over Jackson Arnold. I wasn't super impressed with what we saw from him with Oklahoma last year. I know that their scheme and line, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, but from the quarterback independent stuff, I wasn't a huge fan of Jackson Arnold. Just wasn't. I'm not going to be. We are going to talk about why Josh Pate had these rankings the way he had them. Ones that I think are different, and one poll that, again, we'll say two polls that I really loved on Locked On Gators. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. It's game 1 of the finals tonight between the OKC Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. They trigger me, so I almost just screwed up their name by accident there. But every night's delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and alive with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have way more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Also, if you're a baseball fan, Jack Caglione is up with the Royals. Go ahead and bet his home run. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up at FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And today we're talking about Josh Pate's top 10 SEC quarterback power rankings. And again, he left some names off, which we can touch on a little bit here, but we'll talk about that next. First, we are going to talk about the reasoning behind the list, right? Because I mentioned before, Josh Pate said that he had Lagway first overall because of the potential that he has, right? That's what the list is. The list is, these are my top quarterbacks because of their potential, which you could look at it and say, all right, well, then maybe this list isn't necessarily who's the best right now, but it's if I'm starting a team, who would my QB be? Maybe that's the list. You got Lagway high up there, LaNorris Sellers high up there, but DJ Lagway is number first because of potential. And if you're doing a list based on potential, you can broaden this to all of college football and not just the SEC. And there's a decent chance that DJ Lagway would still be the first quarterback. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke up anybody's you-know-what. I'm not saying that to just ride a hype train. I'm saying that because if we're talking about potential, I don't think that there's a quarterback in the country that has more potential than DJ Lagway. I just don't. There's just, with the physical tools that he has and the intangibles that he has, and by the intangibles, I mean the leadership. When you watch DJ Lagway and you watch this Florida Gators team with DJ Lagway on the field, they play harder with Lagway than they play with anyone else. And I know that there's a lot of people that hate that that kind of thought of, oh, well, why are they playing hard for this quarterback and stuff like that? It's because some guys are better leaders, right? I think DJ Lagway, as a true freshman, was a tremendous leader. Just always calm, never looked panicky, never really. He didn't really make too many mistakes that you look at and you go, oh, might be throwing up a red flag there. Maybe the Tennessee interception, because that one was just very obvious. So maybe the Tennessee interception, but outside of that, there's really not many plays where I look at and I go, oh, that yikes play by Lagway. And it's just not a common thing there. I will say this, and here's my argument that I am willing to make and battle with people for. If you are talking about making a quarterback ranking list based on potential, LaNorris Sellers should be over Arch Manning. If you're making a list that's based mostly on potential, we'll say mostly. If you're making a list that's based mostly on potential, LaNorris Sellers should be over Arch Manning. And while my opinion is that nobody has a higher ceiling than DJ Lagway, you could make the argument that LaNorris Sellers should be number one. That's just, you can. You just can. LaNorris Sellers is, again, if we're talking about potential, LaNorris Sellers is right there with DJ Lagway. Like, physically, Sellers is obviously physically pretty different from DJ Lagway, but in the sense of they're both guys that are made in a lab. Like, they're both just great frame, great size, great athletic traits, great arm. I think that LaNorris Sellers is another guy like Lagway that's made in the lab type of QB that can just will his team to victory. That can just go out there and just go get it. Like, look, Austin Simmons is someone that we can talk about. We could say whatever we saw last year for him, the drive against Georgia. You could say all that stuff. But he's someone who isn't going to be willing his team to victory, right? He's going to be running one of the most offensive scheme-friendly systems around. I realize I butchered the way I phrased that. He's going to be running one of the most quarterback-friendly schemes in all of college football. He's going to be keeping them on track, on target, and he's going to do a great job, I think, at being that quarterback. But he's going to be a quarterback that keeps the system moving along. Not a quarterback that is the system, or not a quarterback that can be the system, because I don't think you ever want a quarterback to be the system, but a quarterback that can be the system. Because DJ Lagway can be the system. LaNorris Sellers can be the system. I don't know if Arch can be the system. I don't know if Garrett can be the system. I don't know if Mateer can be the system. I don't know if Austin Simmons can be the system. I don't know about any of the others if they can be the system. But if we're talking about the potential of quarterbacks and who can be the system, I think it's Lagway and LaNorris Sellers are the top two in the SEC especially, but maybe even nationally. So I think that those two are there, again, willing your team to victory. And look, LaNorris Sellers, yeah, he's more leg-oriented with it. I guess we'll say leg-oriented. He runs more than DJ Lagway. But he's also, by the way, one of the most explosive quarterbacks we've seen in a long while, especially when it comes to just extending plays and creating with your legs and just, again, fighting and willing your team to victory. There are not many that are better than LaNorris Sellers, I think. I think that he really came into his own, especially as you went through the year last year. I think LaNorris Sellers really opened up, really came into his own. And he still has, a bit of a ways to go as a passer. But again, when we're talking about can you bring this team to victory? Can you will them to victory? He can do it. Like LaNorris Sellers is the guy that can do it. And I don't think that there's many others that you can argue can do that. Jackson Arnold did it one time against Alabama, and even then it wasn't necessarily needed for him to do that, but I'm not going to take that away from him at all. Diego Pavia can do it a little bit, but LaNorris Sellers did it consistently. LaNorris Sellers did it at a very high level, and LaNorris Sellers makes people miss, fights through contact consistently against anybody. LaNorris Sellers ran, I think it was a 75-yard touchdown last year. Like, there are not many quarterbacks that have that game-breaking leg ability. And I think LaNorris Sellers has that. So I would say that if we're talking about potential, it's Lagway and Sellers right there. Okay? Again, stylistically, they're different. Lagway's more of a passer. Sellers is more of a runner. But they're both game-breaking type quarterbacks. They're both built in a lab. I'll build my whole entire program around them. Both of them have that. I will say I'm also here for the Taylor Green props. Taylor Green is a quarterback that I like a lot out of Arkansas. I think that, last year he's another quarterback that we saw during the season. We saw him take the developmental steps needed. He was also coming over from Boise State. So coming up from the Mountain West, his first year in the SEC, I think Taylor Green played better than anybody's given him credit for. Sure, turnovers were an issue, but I mean, we're also reaching a point in time where we talked about this the other day, where Ben Johnson with the Chicago Bears, one of the most analytically oriented coaches on the planet right now, one of the best offensive minds on the planet right now, he's like, yeah, I'd rather you throw a pick than take a sack. He said it, not me. And so when I'm talking about, there's some turnovers. When we talk about any quarterback now with turnovers and when rivals fan bases bring it up against DJ Lagway or about DJ Lagway and they go, oh yeah, he had I think it was 9 picks. Whatever it was, it's like I don't really give a damn, honestly. Like I'll take picks if they're in decent context, and like DJ Lagway, Taylor Green, LaNorris Sellers really didn't turn the ball or really didn't throw many picks either. But when you're doing that, when you're making those plays and you're avoiding sacks, I think it's impressive. Where I think Taylor Green needs to improve is that he was under pressure a lot. He got sacked a lot. I think he needs to lower that pressure to sack ratio. But like DJ Lagway did a fantastic job. LaNorris Sellers also took too many sacks. But I'm here for the Taylor Green hype. I think what he did with that awful Arkansas roster last year was incredibly impressive. I loved it. I thought it was big. I've said this before. I'm very out on Jackson Arnold. I just don't think he's a dude that's going to win you many games. And maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. When I'm critical of players, I would rather be wrong than be right and go, I told you. That's just, I hate doing that, especially when we're talking about young players like this. But I just don't think he's a great quarterback right now. And I'm not super sold on his potential. We are going to talk about why quarterback rankings and quarterback opinions around the SEC are all over the place on Locked On Gators. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, We're talking about why the hell no one can come up with a seemingly even close to consensus quarterback ranking in the SEC right now. And non-SEC fans and SEC fans are all over the place. You ask a Georgia fan, they're going to be starkly different from Florida, who's going to be starkly different from Ole Miss, who's going to be starkly different from LSU. They're going to be all over the place. You're going to get, guys in the same general area, right? Most people are going to have Arch at or near the top. Most people are going to have Garrett Nussmeier at or near the top. I think a lot of people are going to have LaNorris Sellers and DJ Lagway at or near the top. But I do think that after those four, you start getting a wide variety of opinions. Like I've said, I wouldn't have Jackson Arnold in the top 10. I think I'd be more likely to put Blake Shapen in there. And look, Blake Shapen is someone that I know we didn't see a ton of last year in Mississippi State because he did get banged up. And Michael Van Buren was very impressive in his time. Blake Shapen, again, played 4 games. And the Florida game was indeed one of them. But I'm looking at him and I'm like, all right, well, I saw what he did at Baylor. I know he's a good quarterback. He might have had the injury and people may look down on him, but again, I know what I saw when he was playing against Power 4 competition already. Like this is different, I think, from a Joey Aguilar who's coming over from technically UCLA, but really App State. Like this is a different case. We're talking about different levels of development. We saw Taylor Green come in last year and improve right there. So I get it that there's guys that are all over the place because we really just don't know what you're going to get. I don't think I've ever seen a time where there's going to be this many new QB1s in the SEC, and I mean true QB1s. I think that's where it comes from. It's just there's so many guys where we can look at them and we say, I don't know what we're going to get, right? You lost Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck's out of the SEC, Jalen Milroe's gone, Peyton Thorne's gone, Nico Iamaleava's gone, Brady Cook's gone. So many teams are replacing their new starting quarterbacks. Like we're looking at it, and I'm going to include DJ Lagway in this. DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, John Mateer, Austin Simmons, Jackson Arnold, Marcel Reed, Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton, Bo Prabula, Joey Aguilar, Blake Shapen, and Zach Calzada. That's what, 12? 12 of the guys are all QB1s this year that don't have a full season of work as QB1. That's it. Taylor Green, we saw a good bit of last year. Garrett Nussmeier, LaNorris Sellers, we saw plenty of them. Diego Pavia. Everybody else, we haven't really seen a season of them as QB1 of an SEC school. We haven't. We've seen a good bit of DJ Lagway, but we haven't seen a season of him as a starter. That's objective. That is not. We haven't seen a season of him as a starter. We saw him as a backup rotating in, and then there was an injury, and he became the starting quarterback, and then he got injured and missed a game. We haven't seen a full season of him as a starting quarterback. We haven't seen 6 games in a row of him as a starting quarterback. We haven't. That's why I don't get mad when people are skeptical of what DJ Lagway is going to be. I disagree with it, but I don't get mad when people doubt DJ Lagway because I understand why you would. You haven't seen him start half a season in a row. You haven't. He started Samford. He took over after Tennessee and I think finished with 6 starts. But that's it. You haven't seen him do it in a row. I understand the doubt. Arch Manning has been sitting on the bench behind Quinn Ewers. John Mateer, good film at Washington State, but coming over, new school, new conference, all that. Austin Simmons, first time starting. Jackson Arnold, we saw him start in the SEC last year, but he's still going to a new school. And again, I really don't think people put enough into that coming over to a new school, new team, new program, new playbook, all that stuff that changes, you need to learn and adapt, and you're going to look different. That's what it is for so many guys. It's like you're going to look different. You could look better, you could look worse, but I don't know what you're going to look like. Marcel Reed, going to be the full-time starter now. Ty Simpson, projected starter. Gunnar Stockton, projected starter. Bo Prabula, again, coming over from Penn State. He's going to be there. Joey Aguilar, coming over from App State. Blake Shapen was injured last year. Again, I've said, I saw enough from him at Baylor to say that I have a pretty decent opinion of him. Like, I think he's a pretty decent quarterback. I think that he should be number 10 on that list, with Jackson Arnold down out of it. Bump everybody else up a spot. Fine. I'm not going to argue with you. And then put Blake Shapen in there. Zach Calzada, I mean, we've seen him bounce around quite a bit, but he's at Kentucky now. Like, they're all new QB1s. And I think that that's why so many non-SEC fans go, oh, yeah, there's no good quarterbacks in the SEC. I say nay. I forgot what comedian that's even from. But I say nay. I say that there are no proven good quarterbacks, or very few proven good quarterbacks in the SEC. But as far as none good or no good or not, no. Look, there's going to be pretty decent NFL quarterbacks coming from this bunch. High draft picks coming from this bunch. So it's not about them not being good. It's about them not being proven. And I think that causes everybody to go, oh, if you're unknown, you're bad. Get the hell out of here. Come on. Like if you're I don't know, I'm going to pick a random school. If you're a Kansas State fan and you've got your QB that you're like, all right, I think he's pretty good, but we haven't seen him, and everybody goes, oh, he's bad because of that, you're going to say that's stupid, right? Because it's stupid to go, we haven't seen him, so he's bad, which is what a lot of non-SEC fans are doing right now, is that we haven't seen them for a full season. We haven't seen them for a big enough sample size. We don't know what they are, so they're bad. That's just saying you don't know ball. That's just saying that you don't understand what evaluating a player is. Because even the guys that we haven't seen a ton of, you can have opinions of. It's just based on a small sample size, and you should just acknowledge that. Austin Simmons, I think, did very well on film last year. Limited sample size. Okay, like there's guys where Marcel Reed wasn't a full season starter. There's reason to doubt, right? And also, even if guys ended up, let's say you took over in game 2 and you were the starter the rest of the way, that's still different from the team spending the whole summer, the whole spring, the whole fall before the season, spending with, hey, this is our guy. That's different. There's levels to this. And so I think that Josh Pate did a fantastic job with most of these rankings. Again, there's really none that I strongly disagree with, except for Arnold shouldn't be in the top 10 and Mateer should be lower, in my opinion. If you're basing it on potential, then I think that that's absolutely the case. Taylor Green, Marcel Reed, Austin Simmons higher. But if we're talking about just pure talent, the SEC has a ton of quarterback talent. It's just not proven talent. It's a lot of it's raw talent as well. DJ Lagway, I thought looked great last year for a true freshman, but he's still pretty raw. Like, he needs a lot of work to go. Mentally, it's a lot of it. You need work. Guys need work, and that's fine. It's fine to acknowledge that. But the SEC has a ton of quarterback talent. It's just unproven talent. So don't do yourself the disservice of saying there's no good SEC quarterbacks. At least throw in the caveat that there's no proven good quarterbacks. At least throw that in and save yourself a little dignity for the people that do say there's no good SEC quarterbacks or the SEC is weak with quarterbacks. No. They're unproven. I don't think you could say they're good or bad. And I think to say that they are definitively good and definitively bad is wild. There's no good proven, guys. There will be good quarterbacks coming out of this. There will be bad quarterbacks coming out of this. But for all the Big 12 squad people going, oh, SEC's quarterback so shaky, the Big 12's taking over. No, you're not, big dog. Come on. Let's be real about it. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free by visiting the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about Florida Gators recruiting probably for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.